everyone. Well, it's over 100 degrees again today, so I thought I would just stay inside and answer another question that came in recently. My friend Jane asked me if I would be willing to share my personal pre-birth memories of the process that I went through to create the soul plan for this current life as a Starseed walk-in. This is something we had chatted about a couple of times a few years ago. And at that time, I'm not sure I had ever heard anyone else share a pre-birth story. I did, however, know there were a couple of books written on the subject. So it was obviously out there somewhere. Well, Jane said that she had very recently noticed the topic coming up on YouTube, where a couple of others had revealed their own experiences. So she felt I should feel comfortable revealing my own. Well, I told her I had actually considered talking about this earlier in the NDE video, but felt it might be too kind of out there for some. Plus, I'm always hesitant to talk about subjects that I still have a lot of questions about. And this is one of those topics where I'm very clear on the memories themselves, such as they are, but have trouble fitting those experiences into other parts of my life memories. You'll see what I mean as I go on. So I'll do my best to share what I know and what I don't know. What I mean by that is that some memories are quite distinct, yet they seem to have originated from a part very separate from who I am now as this soul being here in this body. I have made a couple of attempts at sorting this all out with my angels and guides, but have been told that there are just some things that I'm not ready for yet, and I have to be okay with that. I mean, I feel really lucky to remember what I do remember. And part of this is because of my NDE, where the council allowed me to keep those memories of this pre-birth process. I am so grateful for that. I wish the rest of my memories were that clear, especially the memories previous to my walk-in experiences, the immersion procedure and so on. So yes, I can happily share my pre-birth memories. And who knows, maybe this will somehow help to awaken the deeper knowledge of what I now know to be a projected soul experience, a part of the walk-in encounter. And I guess it isn't all that odd to still have some confusions about what happened and when and how. And this may be in part because of the missing pieces I mentioned. But also the difficulty of trying to use language to explain something so intangible as to be nearly indefinable. So it's hard to line it all up. And I suppose the truth is that if we knew it all, we wouldn't be able to continue the game plan that we came to participate in. So, okay. I guess to start with, I might want to mention that I'm familiar with more than one life as an Arcturian soul and have retained some of those recollections. So when the call came from planet Earth for volunteers to step down into human bodies, I was in between Arcturian incarnations, at home in the non-physical realm, at a position referred to by some as the ninth dimension or the ninth density awareness. My lives as an Arcturian, from what I can remember, were spent between fifth and seventh density, mostly aboard the starship Athena, which is not only the name of the ship, but of my Arcturian complex or family group. And a rather interesting aside here is that when this body was born, a name was chosen that holds the same resonant energetic geometry as the Arcturian essence I carry within me. So what I remember about this progression is that, like so many others, I had been summoned to what the guides refer to as the High Council, whose job it is to prepare souls for the passage from spirit into the physical. This council also oversees the Akashic records, where the accounts of every life that has ever been lived or will ever be lived is stored. So there's a very comprehensive process of advice and guidance and instructions that every soul must go through before incarnation, such as making absolute sure that the soul really wants to do this and is choosing from a position of love and support for all involved. Well, to begin with, I was in a place of light, pure white light, and noticed there were hundreds of illuminated globes floating all around me. And at some point, it came to me that I, too, was one of these floating globes or orbs of light. I found out later that these orbs were actually other souls, like myself, who were going through this same process of incarnation into a human baby. What I remember most clearly about this stage was being in a state of childlike excitement. These are the clearest memories. This process of counseling where these light beings that I thought of as my guardians were kindly and gently explaining to me all of the potential problems or hazards I might encounter as a human, asking more than once if I was really sure I wanted to do this. I remember they cautioned and counseled me in the potential for injury or straying off course. They warned of all the many characteristics and mannerisms of those inhabiting planet Earth and what I might encounter as a human. I was shown holographic visuals of historical depictions of war and chaos, but along with remarkable gentle scenes of birth and family and landscapes of peace and beauty and laughing children playing with animals. I can still, in some way, sense that exhilaration I felt at the time as I realized I would soon be living among all this stimulation. I kept saying, yes, I want to go. I want to go. I remember just wanting to get on with it. It seemed like this part of the process was taking forever. Another part I remember well is that they made a point to explain that when a soul has never incarnated onto planet Earth, the consciousness of the incoming soul will be implanted with a set of false memories of previous human lifetimes on Earth. Now, these are not lives they have actually lived, but are inserted or projected into their memory to assist this incoming soul by familiarizing them with, well, not only what it's like to live in a human body, but those things that they should avoid or fear. So they won't, for example, put their hand in the fire or immediately get eaten by a bear. So, yeah, these implanted memories are meant to acquaint them with human life. So they'll be more familiar and comfortable with what to expect when walking into a human body. I also remember clearly the love I felt for these guides and angels, for their kindness and warmth, as they instructed me on what to expect, as I would be descended down through the levels of density into this human vehicle I would be living in for the duration of my stay on Earth. The guides explained that once I agreed to the incarnation, there would come a moment when I wouldn't be able to turn back. I was taken to a location. Well, actually, I wasn't taken. I was just suddenly there. A place that looked very much like a bright domed room where the walls were made of sort of a glowing bluish energy. And here I was told that since this was my first trip into third density, if I agreed, I would be given a small demonstration of reduced frequency to help prepare for the discomforts of the necessary slowing of light energy down into a material structure. And to tell you the truth, I don't remember much about this part of the experience. I only remember being somehow pulled back out of that space into another. It's the next part of this pre-birth preparation that's the clearest memory for me, and consists of choosing all the details, the birth location, language, parents and others, and events most wanted to encounter during this lifetime. Even what were to be the physical traits and personality of the human. There were also some issues I purposely chose that were more emotional, things I had a curiosity about, like intimate human relationships and family. I have a distinct recollection of wondering what it would be like to be in a war, or to hate, or be jealous, or to be stabbed and killed. Additionally, I wanted to meet with opportunities where there would be a clear choice between forgiveness and vengeance, for example. And, well, just to jump in here, I admit that there were a few of these more emotional details that were purposely placed into the planet at that time. I did not remember choosing them then, but only after the fact. Well, for example, when I was much younger, I faced a situation where I had an extreme reaction of jealousy. And it wasn't until that set of circumstances had been mended, forgiven, did I remember that that it was a chosen part of my soul journey and something I very much wanted to experience. Wow. So when I left the council area space, I was finally left with only one guide. And I know he didn't really have a name, but for some reason, I've always remembered him as Jess. So, for purposes of the conventional, I will use that name. Jess took me to what was in my memory called the circle room. Or maybe that's just what I called it. I wish I could tell you why, but the only vivid image I have about this space was that, strangely, I seemed to be sitting on a floor. And I know this is a little odd because I don't remember actually having a body at that time, just a light form. Yet for some reason, in my memory of this, I felt very much like I was the size of a small child sitting on the floor beside some sort of oscillating opening just to my right. Jess, for some reason, left me there, and when he returned, or when I noticed him again, he told me that I would wait here. Well, it wasn't really that he told me that in words. It was just placed into my awareness that I would wait and then receive a signal, at which time I was to step into that opening on the floor or whatever. Of course, there probably wasn't really a floor, but I'm doing my best to describe the indescribable. Anyway, I would probably now call it a tunnel or a portal, but at that time it didn't mean anything to me. I just trusted that everything would be fine, and I was just anxiously awaiting and anticipating the next moment. I have mixed recollections about my pre-birth journey from here, but again, I'll do the best to relay what I can recall. I remember Jess had made it very clear that when he gave me some signal to leave, I would need to jump in right away. So I was ready. And yet I remember when Jess did signal me to jump or move now, I hesitated for just a split second. And I know there's really no time, so I'm not sure how all that works, but anyway, I paused. Not because I was afraid, but suddenly I didn't want to leave my friends. Yet because I knew this was very important to Jess, that I leave now, I jumped or fell into the opening. The only feeling or emotion I remember from here was one of extreme longing, like homesickness. It was deep and painful, but only lasted a moment. Or maybe my focus became caught up into the journey and what was happening around me. Truthfully, the next thing I clearly remember was arriving in the body and the woman who was to become my mother. And the reason this pre-birth story is still a bit confusing to me is that, as I mentioned in a previous video, the baby did not thrive and nearly died more than once. And rather than gaining weight, from its birth weight, it lost weight and became, as I said, near death. So I have since been told by my higher guidance that my soul fragment, left the baby's body and returned home, or where I came from, to walk in at a later time. And apart from that, I had subsequently been told by my mother that as the baby's health improved, its body didn't respond normally. It didn't crawl or begin walking or talking until a point where my parents became very concerned about this child being disabled in some way. And what was eventually revealed to me by my higher guidance was that the reason for this was that the soul fragment had purposely left the infant's body because in order to save its life, the baby would need to be taken aboard the ET craft for a DNA upgrade and restoration. This is because the Arcturian soul essence frequency was not compatible for that human corporeal vessel. And so in order for the baby to develop well, its body would need to undergo a physical upgrade. And this was only possible through advanced alien or extraterrestrial technology. So obviously, since I'm here in this body, vital and alive, it must have worked. So I apologize for the rather erratic course this information has taken in my attempt at presenting this process. But from my perspective, it just wouldn't feel right to try to dumb it all down. So I suppose all of this subsequent walk in, walk out stuff probably needs its own video. So before I lose you completely, I'll just leave it there. And when I'm able to put together a more concise explanation of the pre-birth information together with the walk-in information, I will, at that time, get back to you with that video. Until soon, bye-bye.